Live from a basement in Dubuque, Iowa.
I'll bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day.
30 minutes from the Field of Dreams and 4 hours from the closest professional sports team.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
On the banks of the Mississippi River.
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
It's the Degenerate Sports Betting Show with Matthew Freedman.
That's what I do. I drink and I know things.
And now your host, Matthew Freedman.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Freedman, Matt F. the Oracle. Welcome to the Degenerate Sports Betting Show, brought to you by Bets TV and sponsored by the FTN Network, where you can get all the season-long and daily fantasy and sports betting content your degenerate heart desires, including my fantasy football write-ups and all of my NFL sides, totals, and player props. Use the highly original promo code Freedman for 20% off of your FTN subscription. That is Freedman for 20% off at FTN. Thanks for checking out the show. Subscribe to the Best TV channel on YouTube and rate, review, and subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. All right, it is Thursday afternoon. We have football. It's been only 48 hours since we last had a football game. It feels like it's been far too long. So, yes, we have Thursday night football tonight. It seems like a relatively COVID-free game, so that is good. Hopefully all of the hardcore COVID madness of week 15 will not impact too much of what we see in week 16, although who knows, we will probably have to deal with some COVID issues, but hopefully not too many. Anyway, in this episode, we're going over the Thursday night football game, going to talk about the prop that I like the most in that game. And then we're also going to look at some of the other bets that I like for this weekend. Let's get into the show. Producer Thomas Viola, sidekick on the controls, connoisseur of pasta, titan of tomato sauce, Billy Joel junkie, and long-suffering Jets fan. Tom, you are transplanted. You are not in Las Vegas right now. You are at the home away from home. How is it going so far?
It is going fairly well. We're hoping right now that no dinguses make it through the door and come to interrupt the show. But fortunately, my dogs are actually pretty low key. I'd say our biggest worry is my father is currently in his absolute happy place right now, because it is, I wouldn't call it a blizzard. It's heavy snowfall, but it's that peaceful heavy snowfall. It's not violent, but it is snowing very heavily, which means he is pretty much just every 20 minutes shoveling off the deck. And every so often he takes the leaf blower out as well. So we're playing with fire here. We will see, but this is his Super Bowl. This is his favorite thing to do in the world.
Okay. So yeah, if during the show you hear a noise that would not be allowed in any pretending to be professional podcast, just know that it is Tom's dad destroying his career. That's the noise that you will be hearing. Okay. Let's get, and by the way, it's been a couple of days. It was really nice taking a break. I was able to spend some time with my wife, get a little bit ahead on the fantasy football breakdown, which is almost done. I'm actually, after this, just going to try to get it done with as quickly as possible, then get it out before any COVID news comes out today that ruins anything that I've talked about. It makes me have to redo some work. So anyway, it's been great to get ahead of that.
Well, we've already had some as Dalvin Cook is now going to be out, which means that we need,
When did this happen? This is
20 minutes ago, tops.
Oh, this is kind of amazing. I'm not even joking right now. I need to take one quick second to look to see if someone in the Dynasty League added. Okay.
This is a scramble to get Alexander Madison.
No, I have Madison on my Dynasty League. I do not have Wayne Gallman. Has Madison been cleared? Is he still in the concussion protocol? I'm going to look this up really quick, because this is actually important.
Activated cleared. Per Matthew Berry, Alexander Madison was activated off the COVID list yesterday, so would expect him to get the start for Minnesota this week.
That is amazing. Tom, this is amazing news for me in Dynasty. I hate to say that, because obviously Dalvin Cook, great player, but Alexander Madison, wow. Okay, this makes him an instant start. And my Dynasty team, no one likes to hear about Dynasty teams, whatever. Austin Eckler is my main running back. Now he's on the COVID list, but it balances out. Now I have Alexander Madison coming in. This is big. But yeah, Dalvin Cook, this is your breaking news to me as we're recording this. Wow. I can't believe that. So yeah, big news there.
I'm just feeling blessed for the fact that I had both Cook and Madison. So my only fantasy playoff season is not killed in the crib right now.
Yes. Okay, let's get into the show.
Indeed. Let's get into Thursday night football tonight. This one's actually going to be an interesting matchup here. I don't think that I would have pegged it as that when I looked at their schedule at the start of the season. But San Francisco takes on the Tennessee Titans. It opened Titans -1, but the money has come in heavy on San Francisco. They now sit as 3-point favorites here. They're 7-7 against the spread. Both teams are 7-7 to the over-under. Tennessee 8-6 ATS. And in terms of playing everybody's favorite game, who has COVID? San Francisco, no one right now. The Titans have 4 players on the list, including Roger Saffold and Taylor Lewan. They're both out for the game, so they'll be without 2 major offensive linemen. But I don't feel like that's a 4-point swing in the money there. People are high on San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't want really any part of this game. I'm going to be honest. I might not even watch this game. That's how I'm feeling about it. But, Jimmy Garoppolo, Tom, we've gone back and forth. Jimmy Garoppolo, I know you don't have a high opinion of him. He is playing well within this offense, like within the confines of what he's asked to do in this offense. He's playing relatively well. He's the number 2 quarterback this year in composite expected points added and completion percentage over expectation. So he's not throwing the ball a lot, but whenever he is asked to throw the ball, he's doing it pretty well. And the 49ers are inventive with their running game. On the defensive side of the ball, they're top 6 in rush EPA and rush success rate, and the Titans want to run the ball. That is what their offense is predicated on. So you put all of that stuff together, and I think it's a reasonable matchup for the 49ers. I do get why they are favored in this spot. That said, I don't want to bet on the 49ers. Like Kyle Shanahan is 15-23-1 against the spread as a favorite. Like, I don't want to be investing in him. We've talked about it before. He's a good play caller, a good schemer, a good designer of an offense. He is not a great in-game decision maker. And that is the kind of thing that can tilt a favorite into a team that doesn't cover. And so I don't want any part of the 49ers. The Titans defense has improved. This really is just a stay away game for me at this point.
And that applies to the total as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
This feels like a team, for me personally, this is a matchup between a team that might be better than I give them credit for and a team that I feel like a lot of people, I am lower on the 49ers and a lot of people are a little higher on the Titans as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me feel like I don't have enough of a read on these two teams to really go into this and say, I like to bet this. That being said, I'm loving the Titans +3 because I think they are a better team than the 49ers. Despite Ryan Tannehill not playing well and Derrick Henry being out, it is very weird to describe a team that has been so plagued with injuries as lucky, but the Titans have been able to somehow find a way to win games without their best players.
Yeah. Well, and finding a way to win has been a hallmark of the Vrabel era in Tennessee, where routinely it feels like they are the lesser team in a matchup and somehow they are always competitive. Like they play up to the level of the competition of better teams, like on a regular basis. And they get AJ Brown back in this game. So their offense conceivably should be something close to an ideal version of itself. Granted, no Derrick Henry, but Dante Foreman has done a reasonable job, especially with the other backs behind him, a reasonable job of filling in for Derrick Henry. And if that passing game can get going now with AJ Brown back and with Julio Jones practicing in full this week, so presumably we have a relatively healthy Julio, I can see how they win this game. I think if you're going to bet on them, I can see the +3, but I can also just see betting the money line.
Yeah, if I'm going to risk my life to go out and travel back to the state line and place a bet on this game, I'm going Titans money line. That's not an exaggeration at this point, frankly. You should see how bad the snow is coming down here. I could probably grab my snowboard and use that to head to the state line.
Oh man, your dad is just in heaven right now.
He really is. Back when I was a kid, when we lived in New Jersey, he had the like industrial grade snowblower.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember that old? It was like a Folgers coffee commercial or something of the dad who would drink the coffee and he would just end up in like the middle of nowhere, still snow blowing. That's my dad.
Yes,
like to a T. He would just keep going
to a coffee.
Yes,
nailed it.
That was a terrible pun, Matt. The shoe was on the other foot now.
It was a dad pun. Yeah,
it was. Real quick, Pistol Pete. First off, he says, good morning. Good morning to you, Pistol Pete. And this is the Degenerate Sports Betting Show, but maybe we tie this into a little tease to the mailbag later on today for the Freedman Fantasy Football Show, because Pistol Pete wants to know, can you start Jeff Wilson tonight?
Yes, you can start Jeff Wilson tonight. Elijah Mitchell is out. I would say look at what Jeff Wilson did last week. That's not like a guarantee that he's going to go for over 100 yards or anything like that, but the usage was really good. The Titans are one of the top teams in the league against running backs, so it's not a great matchup, but I don't know how much the matchup really matters given how run heavy the 49ers are and how inventive they are with their running game. And you just kind of look at the career of Jeff Wilson whenever he has gotten usage similar to what we would project for him tonight. He's had very good success. We didn't see that the first two games this year when he was playing in place of Elijah Mitchell, but we definitely saw it last week. And again, longer term for his career, we've seen him have success as a guy who gets good usage. So yes, I would start him as, a pretty reasonable RB2 this week.
And we will be talking about that a little bit more on the fantasy mailbag. Check out the Freedman Fantasy Football Show, also available on Bets TV and wherever you get your podcasts. So check that out later on today. In the meantime, Matt, do you have a prop that you like in tonight's game?
Yes. So already mentioned, not really looking at a side or a total, but I do think that the running game for the Titans has been reasonable with Deontay Foreman being the guy who is now the leader in that backfield. And so I'm looking at his prop. I bet it at Caesars -110 odds over 48.5 yards rushing. The 49ers, they're good against the run. There's no denying that. They're number 2 in defensive rush success rate. But in his 3 games in the post Adrian Peterson era, Foreman has 19, 13, and 22 carries. With usage like that is very good usage for a guy that has been able to get it done on the ground. Like Deontay Foreman, he had the Achilles injury years ago. I thought that was going to be a career ender. It took him a number of years to get to this point, but he's looked pretty good as a between the tackles, early down grinder. I think he's going to be used pretty heavily in that way in this game. And if he's hitting double-digit carries, a minimum of 13 carries in the past 3 weeks, I mean, he's got a pretty good chance of going over 48.5 yards rushing, almost regardless of the matchup. So I think he has a pretty good chance of going over 48.5 yards. I think this number should be 10 yards higher.
All right. Well, at least we have something that we can try and cash on tonight. And I'm in agreement with you here. You've seen the Titans be capable of putting up dual 100-yard rushers in the same game. Yeah. 48.5 for Foreman does not sound at all unrealistic.
Yeah, I would expect this number to move up. In fact, if we look at the prop shop right now that we have at FTN Bets, I would imagine that this number is already higher. Looking at it, it's 51.5 now at FanDuel. The juice has moved up at the places where it is still 48.5. So I think this line will continue to move.
All right, so go grab it now. In the meantime, let's talk about some Sunday games. Now, of course, everything we talk about this week has the caveat of we are operating off of the assumption that everyone we expect to play is currently going to play. Mm-hmm. Most likely that is not going to be the case at the end of this week as it has been. That being said, this is such a nuts time right now. We could get into a whole bunch of other stuff about their protocols and what we think might change, but that's not what this podcast is for. This podcast is to give you some sports betting information. And we're going to start off Cleveland Browns at Green Bay Packers. The Packers, they were hanging around 7, but now it's up to 7.5-point favorites for them in Lambeau Field. You like them to take down the Browns here.
Yeah. And, this game is actually, I believe it's on Saturday. I think maybe the Saturday night game, but, with not even 10 minutes left in week 15, the Packers had a 14-point lead against the Ravens. They didn't cover. In fact, they barely won. They won on the 2-point conversion attempt that didn't work out for the Ravens. So they won 31-30. But I'm not really too worried about what happened last week. The Packers were on the road. They were outside of division. That's the kind of spot in which they might struggle against the spread. And they were controlling that game, going into the fourth quarter and in the fourth quarter for a chunk of the time. But, this is the spot for them now. They're at home. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau Field is 68-36-4 against the spread for his career. Now, it's true the Packers are once again playing outside of the NFC North, and Rodgers has been very dominant in division, not quite as strong outside of the division, but the Browns are an exceptionally weak opponent right now. They, they're on an unplanned short rest because their game last week was rescheduled to Monday afternoon, and quarterbacks Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum, at least at the point when I was writing this in the outline, they still have not been cleared in the league's protocol. They have not returned to practice yet. The Browns are 2-4 against the spread since releasing wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. Maybe releasing your best wide receiver isn't a good thing for your passing game. And the Packers are league best 11-3 against the spread on the year. Aaron Rodgers, I think he's the MVP. I put this in the FTN bet tracker a couple of weeks ago at 6-1 odds, which obviously you can't get those anymore. Rodgers is number 1 in the league in composite expected points added, completion percentage over expectation. I think he's playing as well as any other quarterback in the league right now, almost as well as he has played at any other point in his career, or as well as he played last year. And then you look at Baker Mayfield, who has an incredibly subpar EPA and completion percentage over expectation composite since the Browns released Odell Beckham Jr. in week 9, and Mayfield he may not even play in this game, right? Packers at 7.5. I obviously would like this more at 7, but I'm fine taking this at 7.5. I think they're going against a team that really cannot recuperate at this point. I think this number should be closer to 10.
I'm completely here with you. When my dad was picking me up from the airport, it meant that he had to go over to Reno, which means he was back in Nevada. And when he was here in Vegas, we set him up with a sportsbook app. And I think we've created a degenerate gambler because he said, he was like, "Oh, can we bet on something while we're here?" And we pull up the app and I'm telling him the lines. He's like, "Oh, I like the Browns here." And I just said, "No, we're not doing that. I'm not filing that bet for you." And he was trying to make me do it, but we crossed into the mountains and they couldn't get the signal. And I was like, "Cool, I just saved you $40 because they're not winning this game. They're not covering this game."
Yeah.
The Browns is the Browns.
No, I'll say I can see how the sharp side in this is the Browns, the road underdog, you're getting the hook. There's the COVID thing that people might be overvaluing. I can see all of that, but it's the Packers at home. The number 1 seed is theirs. Aaron Rodgers going for another MVP, and the Browns, they don't really even have a quarterback situation that they can rely on. And their coach is just now returning to practice, and they still can't even practice because they have these COVID situations going on. So I think they are a team to go against really hard.
I'm with you. I wish I had taken this when it was just 7 and not the 7.5.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to bet on anything right now. Mm-hmm. I don't want to bet on anything pre-flop. I want to wait until 5 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah. Here's a sign that I think that this is the right side. So I bet this on Sunday night. It came out at 7.5 or maybe it was at 7 for a little bit, very quickly went to 7.5. I think at some point on Monday or Tuesday, it moved to 7 and then it got bet back to 7.5, so smart money. Anytime they saw it at 7, they were betting it and moving it back towards the
Yeah.
Packers. So like that's the side.
I was going to say, did you get negative closing line value? Because
Yeah.
that would be our best indicator that it's a good bet.
that really would be.
All right. Real quick, before we move on to the next game here, Troy Rowden wants to know, I'm liking this whole thing on YouTube now that we can actually see people's comments for us. And he was wondering about our process for picking props. What criteria do players / situations have to meet for you to place a bet, Matt?
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So we have a couple prop tools at FTN. One of them is just Jeff Ratcliffe's, like his player props. It's like his prop table, and you can actually see what it is that he's betting. And so it's a table where it compares his projections to the line that he sees in the market when he's betting it. And it gives you a ranking 1 to 5 in terms of the edge that he sees on that bet. And so that is a great resource. And then we have also released a new prop table at FTN Bets that compares Jeff's projections. And so it's sort of like an expanded version of Jeff's personal table where you can see what it is that he's bet. But this expanded prop table shows Jeff's projections, and then it shows the odds for every single book out there. And so you can use that kind of as a guide to see what the difference is between Jeff's projections and the lines that are set for all the books, for all the props. Now, the way that I tend to evaluate props, and I'll say like this year hasn't been as good for me on the prop front as it normally is. And part of that is because I have gotten away from my process a little bit, where I'll just say like I've chased some more overs than I normally do. The sharp side is consistently on the unders. And I'd say from a sports psychology basis, like that makes sense. People, they want to bet on something to happen. Like there's nothing fun in watching a game and having the under on rushing yardage and just sitting there and like the game ends and it's like, yep, I won that by 10 yards because nothing happened in that game. Whereas if you're rooting for an over, each time a guy gets a carry, each time he gets a yard, like there's something that is building to this momentum. And then whenever he hits the over, you just celebrate. Like you never get that euphoric moment when you are betting on an under. And so it makes sense for the books to be able to skew the lines a little bit towards the over. And also, people tend to bet on, in terms of player props, on the players that they like more than the players that they hate. And if they like them, they're going to want to be betting the overs anyway. So it's a market that just skews towards the over, which means if you are going to bet the over, you have to have like a reason for doing it. So for instance, I talked about Deontay Foreman earlier in the show. Like this is a projection type of thing where the books, when they are off, especially on overs, it tends to be that they haven't taken into account really a change in usage, right? That a guy's role within an offense has changed relative to what it was previously. And we see that with Deontay Foreman. With no Adrian Peterson, he is getting much more usage, many more carries than he did previously when he was sharing the backfield with Adrian Peterson. And the sports books have been slower to adjust their lines for that. And so this is an instance where I think there tends to be some pretty good value to the over there. But in most instances, I think there is value in the under. And when I have been at my best in prop betting, and like when I was building my bankroll with prop betting like 4 or 5 years ago, and like really treating it like it was a pseudo full-time job, like while I was doing all of the fantasy writing and stuff. But like when this was the thing I was focused on really the most, like I had like razor discipline of betting unders, like really focusing on the unders, hardly ever betting overs. And that's when I was at my best. Now, like I kind of don't care as much, and I do it like degenerately a little more for fun. And so if there are some overs that I think do offer value, maybe they're not as sharp as some of the unders. I'll probably still bet them. But I think in general, you want to be looking at like usage, focus on usage versus focusing on recent production. Like the underlying usage is what should really be driving the way that you are looking at these lines. And then I'll just say, like, the unders, those tend to be the sharpest bets that you can make. And so focus on those situations. One more note here. I did touch on this with the Deontay Foreman change in usage, but I think like that bears kind of repeating and a little more contextualization. At this point in the season, the edge in a lot of lines is gone. Like earlier in the year, when books are trying to figure out everything, there is a lot of bets that you can be making. There's a lot of exploitation available, and that wanes as the season progresses. And now the bets that offer the most value are the ones where it's not like, oh, this is a good matchup and the books aren't taking that into account. It's where a guy's role has changed. And so the props that I've liked most recently, like Laquan Treadwell, like I love that because the books aren't thinking of Laquan Treadwell as someone who has had a really significant change, like someone that defenses have to account for. But right now he's the number one receiver in Jacksonville, and the books have been too slow to raise his receiving prop. Someone like Josh Reynolds in Detroit, who over the past 4 weeks has become, I wouldn't say the number one receiver because that's Amon-Ra St. Brown, but has become something like a very strong number two in terms of the air yardage that he's getting, the target share that he's getting. And so you have to, at this point in the season, pay attention to the guys who have had something pretty significant change in their situation, change in the way that they are used, because that is where the books are going to be wrong. That's where the edge is at this point.
Man, talk about some big days for Reynolds in Detroit, because you got Josh and Craig Reynolds both starting to break out now.
I know. If I were a dad, I would try to make some sort of Reynolds rap pun, but it wouldn't have worked.
Speaking of dads, mine is currently in his happy place.
Oh, there he is. There he is shoveling. Good for him.
He's enjoying his life right now.
Yeah.
And we will be enjoying our lives if this bet hits. Bills 2.5 against the Patriots here. All right. This game, the Bills need to win eventually, right?
Yeah, they're a good team. You know, I mean, plus 2.5. I got this at Caesars minus 110, but it's +2, +2.5 across the industry. Even though the Patriots beat the Bills in Buffalo in week 13, and then even though the Patriots have won 8 of their past 10 games, I still think that the Bills are the better team. On a neutral field, they should be favored. And I would say favored by probably not a full field goal, but close-ish to a field goal. So I think this game should be a pick 'em. And the two teams defensively, they are comparable. The Bills are number 2 in EPA per play. The Patriots are number 3. The edge, obviously, that the Bills have is that they have Josh Allen, and he is better than rookie Mac Jones. Like, I'm just going to assert that. Mac Jones has been great. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from him. The development that he has made as a rookie, I think it's outstanding. Like, I think he should win Rookie of the Year. I don't think it should be particularly close. There's a chance that someone like Jamar Chase will win, but, you know, like, I think Mac Jones, out of all of the skill position rookies this year, has impressed me the most, given what we've seen out of him. But the market has tended to undervalue Josh Allen in this particular spot. In the regular season, he's 17-8-2 against the spread on the road, 15-7-2 against the spread as an underdog, and as a road dog, 9-3-2 against the spread. And this year, road dogs, they have been the team to back. 74-55-2 against the spread. Josh Allen is better than Mac Jones. This is a very tight matchup. I wouldn't say like confident in this, but like I think there's enough value in the Bills at plus 2.5. I would prefer to 3. It's not going to get to 3, I don't think, but I think there's enough value still in 2.5 to bet it here, because I do think that this should be close to a pick 'em.
I want the Bills to be good. I feel like, do you think that they're really suffering from the Tre'Davious White injury? And that's one of the reasons that this defense has been starting to have problems?
Maybe. I mean, that doesn't help, but Tre'Davious White is, I don't know, like he's a particular type of cornerback where he's not as good against some of the smaller guys anyway. So it's not as if like he's the answer to everything within that offense. And they weren't having him shadow a lot this year anyway. So I think he's just one guy. Like I think that that defense can still be pretty good.
I think my biggest concern about it though is the Bills are a team. We saw the Patriots and the Colts both do this. Their defense doesn't have the physicality we're used to seeing out of Buffalo, and you can just run the ball on them, and that's concerning me a lot.
Okay, here's the thing. Let's say that game in Buffalo didn't have the wind. The Patriots would probably still have run the ball.
Yeah.
The Bills would have been able to throw the ball with much more efficiency. You know, like the Bills probably win that game. And so even if the Patriots have that run the ball mindset in this game, I don't think it's going to matter as much because like there will not be the weather issues this game that we saw in week 13.
My concern was more going back to the Colts game because like you can throw out the Bills Patriots Hurricane game. That's a freak game that's not going to games aren't played like that. But the Colts really exposed them badly. And yeah, part of that is Jonathan Taylor is particularly good at running the football.
Yeah, I mean that is a big part of it. Like Ramondre Stevenson, he's really intriguing, but he still didn't look all that great against the Bills in week 13. Damian Harris has the knee issue, I think, and maybe like a back issue, but like, you know, like he's not set. He's not guaranteed to be playing in this game anyway. And if he returns, I don't think he's going to be at full health. And Stevenson didn't practice on Wednesday. He was out with an illness, which like that has started to be the precursor of this guy has COVID. So like, cause there have been like instances where like a guy is marked with an illness one day and then he's put on the COVID list the next day. So like, I'm just saying like, it's not to say that he definitely has it, but like I'm saying this Patriots running game might not be up to its full self. And so I get it, but even if this Patriots running game is as good as it has been in the past, it's still not up to the level of the Colts. And even then I still don't see the certainty of a good running game being able to beat a good passing game.
I'm with you on that. And again, I think the Bills are actually good. And at some point they have to win a couple games to finish this playoff run.
Yeah. I will be curious to see Emmanuel Sanders if he is able to play, because if Sanders and both Cole Beasley are out, then that like, I still think that offense is fine. Gabriel Davis is probably the best number 4 receiver in the league. It should honestly be starting, I think, over Sanders anyway. Isaiah McKenzie is a competent enough number 5. So like, I think they should still be fine on offense, but like it does hurt them a little bit.
I went to high school with a kid named Gabe Davis and it throws me off. All right. The last game that you have here on the slate, the most unwatchable game potentially of the year. It will rival only the Houston Jets game. We have the now urbanless, the rural Jacksonville Jaguars going up against the New York Jets. And thank God you don't have a side in this one.
I mean, I have to say, this game is so disgusting. Think of the NFL schedule makers. You know, they had to be so pleased with themselves months ago when they were like, you know what? At the end of the season, we're going to put the number 1 pick against the number 2 pick. And it's going to be like the future. Like we're showing the NFL fans like the future after these guys have had a season to kind of like early season, they get through it. And now like they're starting to really come on at the end of the season and it's going to be head to head. It's going to be awesome. No, this is going to be a disgusting game. So I'm betting under 41.5 in this Jags at Jets catastrophe that we're going to see. I bet this on Sunday night at 42.5. I'm still willing to take it as long as it's above the key number of 41. The Jags have a league worst 3-11 over/under record. They are totally incompetent. If we look at their offensive pace, they're number 1 in the league with 24.6 seconds per snap, which is it's amazing that a team this bad on offense wants to play this fast. It seems like since they know they suck, they should be trying to extend their drives as long as possible by taking as much time on the clock. They're number 32 in the league with 14 points per game since the week 7 bye. They're 10 points per game. It's amazing, right? When they have the ball, they are in a hurry to go nowhere. And it's not as if firing head coach Urban Meyer or giving more carries to running back James Robinson can actually fix all of their problems. There's a non-zero chance that Trevor Lawrence has already been irreparably harmed due to organizational incompetence. And then if we look at the defensive side, in pace, the Jags are number 32 with 29.7 seconds per snap because opponents have zero motivation to play quickly against an offense that can't score, a defense that can't stop them, and a coaching staff that is in disarray. And as for the Jets, they've averaged 18 points per game since the return of rookie quarterback Zach Wilson in week 12. Offensive mediocrity would be a vast improvement for both of these teams. So even though defensively they are bad, I think they are worse on offense than they are on defense. And they play in such a style that it feels like this should be a game that finishes in the 30s. So under 41.5 is a number that I am very comfortable with.
I don't have the stats to back this up, as with most things, but I feel like bad defenses make a mediocre offense look good, but these are mediocre defenses, and those don't make bad offenses look good.
Yeah.
The bad offenses make the mediocre defenses look good, and that's what we're going to see in this game.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Also, RIP to, I forget who it was on Twitter. I feel like I don't think it was one of our guys, but someone had a 50-1 ticket on Urban Meyer, first coach fired, and John Gruden just messed that up for them.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I would be curious. I mean, yes, that ticket is not going to cash. I would be curious in the wording of that though.
Yeah.
Because I think
it's mutually parted ways or whatever.
Yeah. Like, did Gruden technically resign?
It's a good question. That's something to explore on a different show. Well, yeah, actually that is a pretty degenerate bet, but
I think Gruden resigned. So whatever, that's not cashing. You're not going to get your money back because it's probably phrased as like first coach fired, but like in the notes
Matt,
of it.
I've lost you here. I'm not sure if it's your mic.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm not hearing you.
Okay. I'm still talking. I don't think anything has changed on my end. Maybe it's your earbuds.
No, I think your mic got unplugged or something.
I haven't touched anything.
I'm not sure what's going on, but
okay, let's end it.
We are at the end of the show anyway. Yeah. I literally cannot hear you. Okay. We are at the end of the show. I can't trust that your mic is coming through for everybody else and not just me. So I'm going to try and take us home here, Matt, because I can't trust that your mic is working.
That's fine.
You guys can find all of Matt's work at FTN Network. On Friday, there's the fantasy football breakdown. Thursday, we've got best bets. Tuesday, the fantasy rankings, which he updates on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday all come out. And all week, catch his plays in the Bet Tracker. You can find the link to that in the description below. And on Twitter, YouTube, your favorite podcast app, and on FTN, you can get daily episodes of the Freedman Fantasy Football Show and the Degenerate Sports Betting Show. Use the highly original promo code Freedman for 20% off at FTN. All right, that's the show. You can find me and Matt F. the Oracle on Twitter. Tune in next time, guys. We will see you.